So, growing up, my father was a really violent alcoholic. And even though we ended up with a really good relationship, when I was a husband, when I was a dad, I did not want to do that to my kids. I did not want to drink. So, what I found myself doing without even realizing it was turning to food and literally eating myself to death. I don't really know how I got engaged in this destructive behavior. I really don't know when it started to occur. But looking back, I can kind of see how it started to occur. I mean, there were some environmental things that took place. Like when we grew up, we didn't have a lot of food. We didn't have a lot of luxury food. When my mom would make cookie bars, she'd take the chocolate chip cookie recipe and just make bars. This was rare, like once every couple of months. We would just eat the entire thing. It was such a luxury. We didn't, this was the late 70s, early 80s. We didn't have fast food. We didn't have Coke sitting around. So I think part of it was environmental, being able to make a little bit of money, normal money as an adult, and have a little bit of money for fast food or luxury food, things that I really craved, like tortilla chips or ice cream, whenever I wanted. So I think that was one of the factors that led to me overeating and not being able to control my eating. Another big factor that I didn't realize was because of how my dad was growing up. I didn't handle stress very well. I didn't even realize this till a couple of years ago. I'll be 59 this year. I didn't even realize this until a couple of years ago, but I'm not antisocial, but I like to stay in my shell. I don't like things invading me, like, I don't like stressful things. I don't like unexpected things. I just like to keep on my schedule, and I don't like that outside interference. I just like to keep on a smooth schedule, whether it's work or relationships, personal life, whatever. I don't like the unexpected. And obviously in life, you're going to have unexpected. So my way of dealing with that stress, whether I realized it or not, was eating. And I could sit down at the end of the day, no matter how hard I worked, and just have mouth pleasure is what I like to call it. It's what I say to some of my clients. Some of us can become very addicted to mouth pleasure, and having that combination where I had a little bit extra money, we're just lower middle class, whatever, and taking out my stress without even realizing it on tortilla chips. It seems harmless, right? It just seems harmless. But before you know it, you're spiraling and spiraling and spiraling out of control. And I thought I was in a pretty good place. I wasn't going to be an alcoholic like my dad. During when I was 21, maybe 22, I had a little bit of fun with my friends, and we had some drinking times, but during my whole marriage, I think maybe outside of one wedding I attended, I might have had less than 20 beers in 17 years. Alcohol just wasn't going to be there. I was going to be the super dad. There was going to be no alcohol at all. And I didn't even think about it. I didn't worry about it. It's not something that was even on my radar. It just wasn't, part of that life. I was going to keep it out, and I was comfortable keeping it out. But little did I know, or little did I realize, that the healthy person that I once was, the person that enjoyed activity and adventure in life, that was a big part of me, but I was losing that. It wasn't some dramatic big event. It just was like slowly slipping away. I entered my marriage with a handful of sand, and I'm just holding it in front of me. And then I wake up 17 years later and there's nothing left. And I hadn't even realized it had slipped away. All the adventure, stopped doing the things I like to do. And that sand was being replaced, by just weight going up on the scale and worsening health. I think this is kind of how a lot of us feel when we wake up in our 40s. Maybe you wake up in your 50s, maybe some of you even in your late 30s. There were things you loved in life, things that were a big part of your life. And you were doing, maybe you weren't necessarily depressed. You were just doing life, and you just woke up one day and you just realized, is this all there is? I'm unfulfilled. I feel so detached from who I was. This is how I woke up. Like, I woke up 346 pounds, and I am somebody that would go out every day when I was younger and go running. I was super active. I liked to lift weights. In college, from age 18 to 21, before I went in the military, I just fell in love with lifting weights. Activity was always part of my life. I got into car sales in Richmond, Virginia. I remember going out on the weekends and hiking or rollerblading, and it was just always something I loved to do. I loved physical fitness. I loved activity. And then I just woke up and I was huge. Just drop by drop, that sand was just slipping away. And everything that was who I was gone. And it had been replaced by somebody in the mirror that I had no idea who they were. Absolutely no idea who I was. And it literally took type 2 diabetes nearly killing me from fatty liver disease when I was 346 pounds for me to wake up. And our wake up moment is different. Each of us are going to have a different wake up moment. But that was my wake up moment where it just kind of struck me. I'm in my mid-40s. I'm doing everything right. I'm a super dad, and I'm a great dad to my kids, and I'm teaching them love and respect and patience, and I'm doing all my fatherly, my fatherly duties and my husbandly duties, and I'm taking care of everything, and I'm working hard. But I was completely detached from myself. There was an unbalance that had been developing, and I had no clue it had been slipping away. It had been developing. Mentally and physically, I was completely lost. And I just woke up at that moment feeling like I had been numb. I had so many blessings, right? So many wonderful things in my life. And I don't like to toss around the word blessings, but I had a lot of good things in my life. But I just woke up and I felt numb. I felt detached. And I kind of realized I'm not doing the things I like. There's just nothing here I'm doing that resembled the things I liked. For some reason, I felt like I had to just, I don't know. I don't know that I felt like I had to give it up. I felt like I had to be a super dad and a super husband and everything that wasn't like my dad, the violent alcoholic. So I went all in, and that was fun. It's not like I hated that. I liked being a good dad, and I liked being a role model to my children, and I liked being a husband. But I was bouncing back so much from how my father was that I completely detached myself from taking care of myself, which is ironic because, my dad wasn't taking care of himself, and I didn't want to be like him. But I bounced back and went to the other end of the spectrum where, avoiding alcohol and being a super dad, where I just completely detached from physical fitness, from taking care of myself, and even the other interests I had in life. I loved baseball. I rarely watched baseball. I loved playing games, tabletop games. I rarely did that. I loved playing guitar, even though I kind of suck. I just detached from that. I just realized all the things I loved were no longer part of my life. So for those of you watching, I just want you to know, if you woke up like this, or if this is your waking moment and you realize you're not taking care of yourself, it's okay to take care of yourself. We're not going to just abandon our responsibilities and our job and our family and our spouses or whatever the case is. But if you feel like you're lost, not necessarily depressed, but lost, and sometimes, it's not like it's a black or white thing. You could be melancholy. You could be depressed, but not in the way that you're thinking of, bad things. Just trying to say that without getting penalized on YouTube. If you're kind of feeling that way, maybe it's time to take some inventory. Who am I? What are my needs? What do I like to do? How can I reintroduce them into my life and not unbalance things on the other side? Not go from spending no time taking care of myself mentally and physically to unbalancing, because that's kind of the fear that if we stop being super dad and if we stop being super husband or whatever we are, and that we start spending time taking care of ourselves, we almost feel guilty. We almost feel like, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be taking care of other people. That is wrong. That is unhealthy thinking. Balance is okay. My advice for you is to start with minimums. First, connect yourself. Reconnect with the things you like and the things you feel are missing from your life that you want to reconnect with. On top of this, go out and spend some time with them. And if you find you no longer enjoy these things, then move on. Try some different things. But at least you're spending some time reconnecting with yourself and your feelings. It isn't about the old hobbies and it isn't about the old interests. It is about taking time and investing it in yourself. This will help you physically. This will help you mentally. Not every meal has to be something they want. You can take care of yourself in this mix. We can still adventure. We can still explore. We can still do the things we love. And we aren't punishing or hurting those in our life. In fact, by being better people mentally and physically, we're going to be happier. It's going to show. We don't even realize it. And we're going to bring more balance, more overall healthiness into our life, and it's only a good thing. Now, if you are feeling like you're really, really overweight and you're really, really unhealthy, just focus on taking care of yourself. Don't overthink it. Focus on taking care of yourself with food. It doesn't mean we need to be strict and never have fun, but do some analysis. What are the things I know are hurting me, and focus on pulling back on them? What I call damage control. I used to eat a whole bag of tortilla chips. Now, if I want a bag of chips, I get one of those little ones. That's damage control. Take inventory of the things that are hurting you and focus on damage control or minimizing the damage, or just have that awareness. Every day I'm going to do something that is better than how I used to be yesterday, because that is a good first start. And we can apply this to activity as well. If you feel detached from activity and you don't have a lot of time, don't pressure yourself. Just try to increase your step count. Try to get in 60 minutes of resistance training. Try to go hiking. Try to do something, maybe even involve the family. So in closing, I just wish the best for each of you, wherever you're at right now. My dad was super violent, and I rebounded to the point where I just became so unbalanced, I stopped taking care of myself. I remember my dad not taking care of himself, and I wanted to, not torture my kids in the same way, but I ended up not taking care of myself and not being the best role model for my kids, not being the best, person I could be, and being completely unhealthy. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.